Welcome to the Daily Globe. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. The world's longest undefended border, once a symbol of friendship, trust, and deep economic integration, has stood for over a century as a testament to the unique relationship between the United States and Canada. For generations, families, businesses, and entire communities have thrived on the easy flow of goods and people across this invisible line, fostering prosperity and peace on both sides. But now, this border has become the front line of a bitter and unprecedented trade war, where suspicion and economic rivalry have replaced cooperation and goodwill. As of September 2025, the United States and Canada are locked in a relentless cycle of tariffs, counter-tariffs, and political recriminations. The fallout threatens not only jobs and supply chains but also the very foundation of a century-old alliance that has weathered wars, recessions, and global crises. Sparked by President Donald Trump's aggressive protectionist policies and a renewed focus on domestic manufacturing, this conflict has upended decades of cross-border cooperation and trust. In response, Canada's fierce retaliatory tariffs have created what some are calling an economic blockade, severing vital links in industries from agriculture to automotive and escalating the standoff into a clash of national ideologies. On one side stands Trump's America First doctrine, rallying supporters with promises to protect American jobs and industries at any cost. On the other, a defiant Canada, led by a government determined to defend its economic sovereignty and national pride, refusing to back down in the face of mounting pressure. The fallout is real and immediate. American farmers lose access to crucial Canadian markets, watching their crops go unsold and their livelihoods threatened. Meanwhile, Canadian consumers face rising prices on everyday goods, as tariffs drive up costs and disrupt supply chains that once seemed unbreakable. Nationalism and frustration surge on both sides of the border, fueling protests, political rallies, and a growing sense of division between two nations that once prided themselves on their close partnership. This story traces the origins, escalation, and profound consequences of a trade war that is not only reshaping North America's economy, but also redefining the relationship between two of the world's closest neighbors. The seeds of crisis were planted long before the first tariffs were announced. Tensions between the United States and Canada had been simmering beneath the surface for years, with both nations quietly jockeying for economic advantage. But it was a single campaign promise that would bring these underlying issues to a boiling point. President Trump's 2025 campaign made renegotiating trade with Canada a central promise, casting Canada as a competitor, not a partner. At rallies across the country, he vowed to put America first, and accused Canada of taking advantage of U.S. workers and businesses. The rhetoric was fiery, and the crowds responded with cheers, but behind the scenes, officials on both sides of the border grew increasingly uneasy. His threats soon became reality. A sweeping 25% import tax on Canadian goods sent shockwaves through Ottawa and U.S. boardrooms alike. The announcement dominated headlines, with analysts warning of dire consequences for both economies. Canadian officials scrambled to assess the impact, while American companies braced for higher costs and supply chain disruptions. The administration's steel and aluminum tariffs, justified by shifting reasons ranging from national security to protecting American jobs, hit Canada especially hard. Factories faced layoffs, and entire communities worried about their future. The atmosphere grew tense and hopes for a quick negotiation faded as both sides dug in their heels. In response, Canadian officials quietly prepared a list of U.S. products for targeted retaliation, iconic goods from swing states, designed to maximize political pain. Items like bourbon, orange juice, and even ketchup were chosen not just for their economic impact, but for their symbolic value, sending a clear message to Washington that Canada would not back down easily. The surprise resignation of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in January signaled a dramatic shift. The old diplomatic playbook was out, and a new, more confrontational strategy was in. Trudeau's departure left a leadership vacuum, but it also opened the door for a new approach, one that would redefine Canada's stance on the world stage. Canada was bracing for a fight. The mood across the country was one of determination and resolve, as citizens and leaders alike prepared for the economic and political battles ahead. The stage was set for a new leader and a new era in Canadian foreign policy, one defined by resilience, assertiveness, and a willingness to stand up to even its closest allies. Mark Carney, the renowned former central banker, stepped into the role of prime minister at a moment of national uncertainty. His appointment was more than a change in leadership. It was a signal to the world that Canada was ready to chart a bold new course, even in the face of mounting global pressures. With Parliament behind him and the nation watching, Carney's arrival marked the beginning of a new era. The country braced itself for tough decisions, but also for the hope that comes with strong, visionary leadership. Carney's deep financial expertise and steady hand made him the ideal leader for a nation under siege. His years at the helm of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England had prepared him for this moment, one that demanded both courage and clarity. He wasted no time. Within days, Canada struck back with $30 billion in counter-tariffs, sending a clear message. The country was willing to absorb economic pain to defend its industries and its sovereignty. The move was bold, calculated, and designed to show that Canada would not be intimidated. Foreign Minister Mélanie Joly's powerful declaration, "We will not back down," quickly became a rallying cry across the nation. Her words echoed in Parliament, in the media, and on the streets, uniting Canadians from coast to coast. Canadians responded with remarkable unity. The Canada First movement surged as citizens rallied behind local businesses, embraced national pride, and made conscious choices to support their own economy. Social media campaigns and public rallies swept the country, reinforcing a sense of shared purpose. Soon, a second wave of tariffs was announced, doubling down on the economic counterpunch. The government's resolve was unwavering, and the message to the world was unmistakable. Canada would stand its ground, no matter the cost. Nearly $60 billion in duties now targeted a wide range of U.S. goods, from computers and electronics to sporting equipment and household items. The impact was felt in stores and homes across the country, but Canadians understood the stakes. Carney's approach was never just symbolic. Every move was a calculated effort to make the trade war costly for the United States, while protecting Canadian interests and jobs. His leadership inspired confidence, even as the economic battle intensified. Through it all, the nation's resolve was unmistakable. Canada would not be bullied. Instead, it would stand together, proud, determined, and ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. March 2025 marked the escalation from standoff to economic conflict. Canada's 2 rounds of tariffs, totaling nearly $60 billion, targeted not just symbolic goods but critical supply chains. President Trump responded with defiance and threats, even suggesting Canada could avoid tariffs by merging with the U.S., fueling outrage. The rhetoric hardened positions, making diplomacy elusive. The conflict soon drew in global players. The EU announced $26 billion in tariffs on U.S. goods, turning a bilateral dispute into a multi-front trade war. The world watched anxiously as the April 2nd deadline for further U.S. tariffs approached. The stakes de-escalation or deeper crisis. Both sides appeared ready for a long, costly fight. The economic pain was immediate and widespread. U.S. industries reliant on Canadian materials, construction, automotive, faced soaring costs, while American farmers lost a key export market. In Canada, national pride came at a price. Consumer goods became more expensive, squeezing household budgets. Businesses scrambled to reconfigure supply chains built over decades, facing disruption and uncertainty. Job losses mounted on both sides, with manufacturing plants cutting shifts and transport companies seeing sharp declines. Labor leaders condemned the conflict, warning it hurt working families everywhere. Economists revised growth forecasts downward, warning of looming recession. The tariffs became a massive new tax on North American commerce, paid by ordinary citizens. The trade war deepened political and social divides. In Canada, Prime Minister Carney's tough stance united the country, making any concession to Washington politically impossible. In the U.S., Trump's base cheered the tariffs, but opposition grew in states hit hardest by Canadian retaliation. Republican lawmakers faced a dilemma: loyalty to the president or relief for suffering constituents. Social tensions rose, border crossings grew tense, and online discourse turned toxic. The sense of North American unity faded, replaced by animosity and nationalism. Canada began rethinking its future, fast-tracking trade talks with Asia and Europe. The era of seamless North American integration was over. The continent's geopolitical map was being redrawn. Experts from business, labor, and policy circles warned of lasting damage. Industry leaders, once confident in stability, now faced chaos and uncertainty. Economists agreed. Tariffs are a blunt tool, raising costs and hurting both consumers and producers. The integrated US-Canada supply chain meant tariffs often acted as a tax on both countries' own industries. Diplomats lamented the breakdown of trust and the bypassing of established dispute mechanisms. Most experts saw no quick resolution, only a grinding war of attrition with no true winners. The consensus: both nations would suffer, and the damage could last for years. As September 2025 unfolds, the US-Canada relationship stands at a crossroads. Subnational diplomacy offers a glimmer of hope. Ontario's Premier Doug Ford opened talks with the US, suspending tariffs as a gesture of goodwill. If more governors and premiers push for peace, national leaders might find an off-ramp. Mounting job losses and rising prices could intensify domestic pressure for negotiation. Yet, entrenched positions and nationalist rhetoric make concessions risky for both Trump and Carney. The likely outcome: a painful stalemate, with both sides digging in. The April 2nd deadline for new US tariffs looms as the next flashpoint. A decision to escalate would push the partnership further into dangerous territory. The 2025 US-Canada trade war is a cautionary tale for the world. It shows how quickly alliances can unravel under the pressure of nationalism and protectionism. The metaphorical blockade of Alaska is a stark symbol. Even the closest neighbors can become adversaries. The conflict highlights the dangers of abandoning multilateral rules for unilateral action. Retaliation only breeds more pain. International institutions, though imperfect, are vital guardrails against economic chaos. The lesson: peace and prosperity require effort, compromise, and respect for shared rules. The unraveling of North America's partnership is a tragedy for all who believe in cooperation over conflict. The hope that the world learns from this saga before others repeat its mistakes.